dude. Careful.
Did you forget?
Realist Podcast. Welcome back. Welcome home. You Are Here Podcast, episode 175. Wow, another week, man. 175.
Milestone.
Could buy like a Twix with that, man.
Can you?
Probably not. Inflation.
No. Yeah.
We're back. Another week. Shout out to the patrons. Patreon.com/You Are Here Pod. Hey, man, it's the best way to support us. If you want to buy us, it starts at as low as a coffee. You could hook us up. You know what I mean?
It's a recession, dude.
Yeah, man.
Times are tough,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
We're not asking for much.
We're trying to get this sign, dude.
We're trying to get the real sign in.
How you doing, bro?
I'm good,
you doing
man.
Good?
I'm good. It's 175. Welcome back. Welcome home.
Yes.
You Are Here Podcast, episode 175.
It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
We haven't had a guest in a while.
Well, it's been we've been dancing around it for a couple months.
True.
You know, we finally locked in a day and a time, and we've crossed borders, and we're bringing it to you guys now today. Really excited to have this homie on. Matt Lewis is a podcaster. He is a human being. He's a Canadian. He is a marathon runner in the making. We got a lot to talk about today. The dude is a present wholesome homie from the Wholesome Homies Podcast.
Yes.
Matt, thank you for joining us today, bro. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, we're extremely grateful, y'all. Damn, that's such a nice intro. I feel so warm. No, I appreciate that a lot. It's yeah, like you said, months in the making, but I'm grateful to be on here. Yeah, appreciate y'all.
We appreciate you, man.
Yes.
Dude, I've been listening to the pod. You know, I've been before I get into the pod, I want to say this, you know, so for context for people who are listening. You know, we didn't know each other. In the world, let's say we were born in 1920. There's probably no way we get in contact, right? We definitely don't have a podcast.
I never even thought of that.
And we definitely don't know each other. There's probably no chance of that happening. Maybe there is. Maybe there's some weird thing would have happened in a different way and brought us together. But for the sake of this conversation, let's say there was no chance. And in some strange way, a social media platform like TikTok has made us get on this podcast and get to know each other even beforehand, you know, talk through another social media like Instagram. And I'm just feeling a ton of gratitude for those things, like being able to meet somebody, you know, never would have met otherwise and have a deeper conversation, get to know you a little bit. So I don't know, man, what do you think about that? Like social media and like how it plays a part in what you do when you're podcasting?
Yeah, when you're like pod specific, it's interesting. Like I feel like definitely like the way, like you said, like when we were talking before this, you said we almost came together cosmically, which I love. Like hits it right on the head there because you're right. Like if we were like even 50 years, 40 years like behind, there still would be maybe a slim chance. So it's interesting how people connect in those certain ways, and I love it because when I first saw y'all's page and a few other podcasts like I check out here on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, I love it because there's so much genuine content from you guys. And I feel like calling it content is almost diminishing it because it's conversations we need to have. And you guys are really opening it up. And I've seen so much vulnerability from you. And that's definitely something I feel like when COVID hit and everything else, like that woke us up and it was like, okay, we need to start having these conversations a lot more. So yeah, with this pod specifically, I love it because it connects people like us. It connects like-minded people together. It's interesting, like social media, I have thoughts on, like, you know, everybody kind of like has struggles with it here and there, I feel like, but yeah, obviously it brought us together and, you know, like you were kind of saying in the beginning, it's kind of, you know, we're meant to be here right now.
So. One thing I want to add is I think it's
Don't you dare point at me, man, when you're about to talk.
Okay.
Don't you do that.
Thought we were friends.
Put the hand down. Sorry.
I want to add. No, because I want to say something about you, man. This is a See, okay. I'm about to compliment you hard, and then you shot me down.
I was teasing, man. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, but I want to add that, like, for social media, I feel like it's what you put in. Usually, it comes out in the same way, you know, or you can maybe it doesn't, but you can choose to make it, you know, be a positive thing.
Yeah.
If someone gives you something negative, you could just throw that, you know, you spin it back. But I feel like, especially TikTok, and when I go on TikTok, when I'm scrolling through, I'm like, I'm not getting your feed. You know what I mean? I'm not getting the greatest things. I'm not getting the most positivity.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. But for some reason, your like whole page, I feel like I don't see any like hate, no weird stuff, no nothing happening. I feel like it's like such a strange happening where like there's such a wholesome part on the TikToks you post for some reason. And I feel like that's what drew you in.
Wholesome homies.
I'm so used to like people on TikTok are brutal, man. Comments are brutal.
It could be.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, but I haven't seen one bad thing, you know, come out of like you putting stuff up.
Yeah,
right?
it's very, very scary.
Gives you like, I don't know, it made me be like, oh, there's like a little bit of light. There's a little light in the world.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes. Well, that's what I wanted to get into with you, Matt. Thank you, bro, for saying that. I don't know how it's happening either, but I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that more because, you know, that's how I met you. Somehow, something on that thing said, you know, Wholesome Homies Matt Lewis may want to see this, and sent it to you in some way, somehow. And you said, oh, I recognize maybe myself in this kind of thing. And, you know, I watched your thing and listened to your thing. And I said, well, of course, like, you know, you're having conversations with people about, you're trying to open up and bring light into like dark places in the world, being vulnerable, being honest, being kind, wholesome. You know, you're not trying to spread some kind of like negative message or be, I don't know, contributing to a force that's trying to, you know, bring people down. The only thing you seem to be doing with your work and with, you know, with what you do is you're trying to bring light into the room, light into the conversation, trying to uplift and motivate and at least hold space, like comfortable, kind space for people. And that's why I wanted to talk to you mostly, dude. I've been listening to a lot of your stuff. And, you know, your conversation with Pilar I got into, and your chats with Matt, you know, I got into too. And that kind of thing, that kind of vulnerability of saying like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to turn this thing on, and I'm going to put it out in a way where I'm honest and I am leading with kindness, but also like vulnerability. Vulnerability doesn't really exist. Like it's such a rare quality to bump into somebody and say, you know, how you feeling? And you get a real honest, like, not well. You know, or I'm struggling with this or whatever. You know, I keep it pretty zipped up for a long time. I kept it, you know, and I'm like I told you, I'm in my 30s now. You know, it took me a while to get to where you're at and where Mikey's at, you know. So I applaud you, sir, for you know, doing the work you're doing on your podcast. I'm a fan, Wholesome Homie. But yeah, dude, I guess I just wanted to say that, like, You're a light bringer. You're not trying to steer people who may hear you into a place of feeling worse about themselves or more alone. I think you're trying to bring people closer and say, no. Like, we're much more alike than you think. It's okay to be thinking what you're thinking and feeling what you're feeling. And you work the shit out as you go. You know, we're not scientists. We're not Harvard educated people. We're you know, I'm not speaking for you. I'm saying myself, like I'm not. So, I can speak from the heart. I can be honest and vulnerable, and that's the best I can give you. And I think you're doing that. So, you know, kudos to you, man. Yeah.
Man, y'all put a fucking smile on my face.
Yes, dude.
No, I appreciate that immensely. I think, I appreciate that a lot. I don't even have words to say for that. I have such a tough time accepting compliments myself. So
yeah.
I appreciate that. It's an interesting thing. Like, I was thinking about it a few weeks ago because I noticed the first like 8-10 months of the pod, like I was almost trying to fit into a box and almost invalidating what I was saying in the content we were putting out, because I was like, a lot of the podcasts I listen to are, like you said, like people who are highly educated. Like if you guys listen to Andrew Huberman or like I used to listen to Rogan a ton, and he has like a bunch of people on. Obviously, he has like tons of guests, but these people who have vast backgrounds and like get into the nitty gritty and have data and have like all this stuff to back up. And I was like, oh, I'm just saying my feelings. It's not going to land as well, or it's not going to kind of have the same importance. But like you said too, like trying to bring people closer together, I kind of like slowly came to that point where I was like it's not like it matters how many people listen to it, or like the how nitty gritty or how deep you get into a certain field of study. It's more so just, like you said, trying to connect people together and say, yo, you guys aren't the only ones. Like, these are real things that people just don't share. And like you said, even like when you ask people on the street how they're doing, it's almost an automatic thing. And like to say, oh yeah, no, I'm good, I'm fine. Like, you know, just going through it. And it's really hard to kind of like pick at that and like allow or get people to open up to you. So I always say to people, like, vulnerability sucks. Like, it's not supposed to feel good, but that's what gets you through. I heard today, it's like the hardest path is essentially the easiest or the fastest path, because you go through that vulnerability, which is very difficult and takes a lot for you. But at the end of the day, you're going to come across something so much more beautiful and so much more genuine, and like kind of come into your higher self rather than kind of trying to skate around that. So I don't know. It wasn't something that I necessarily tried to, I don't want to say vulnerability came easy, but it was just like, dude, I'm fucking like somewhere through COVID, I was like, I'm done with just like spouting the bullshit and trying to like mask myself with this. And I'm going to try and like get through whatever I got to go through. And this is what it ended up being. But I don't know if that answers y'all's question.
No, yeah, it was just a statement. I just, I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Yeah. And that's awesome, dude. You were about to ask a question. I think.
Yeah. I wanted to definitely say, I feel like we both thought about that, like had that feeling too of almost feel like we're contradicting what we've been saying sometimes, and I feel like that's a huge thing sometimes when I think about them, like especially before, when we're, we're not preaching, but we're preaching this like word of like, being vulnerable and letting it all out and, being open in life and figuring things out. But I feel like it's so important to talk about that because I think it's always a wall that you're trying to like break through to get to that vulnerable point, and we're always like on this scale of like going back in to going out. You have a bad day, you go back into the shell.
You climb right back into that.
Yeah, so I feel like getting past that contradiction, that feeling of contradicting, like
feeling like
that's just life. That's just life, man. That's humans.
Yeah.
That's how we work, and I think accepting it is like a big step, I think,
for sure,
for people.
Yeah.
So I definitely felt that I vibe with that, man.
I love that. And I think you hit on something big, which is like when you're bringing it to a podcast, where you're saying like, I'm going to talk about this today. I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I'm going to share that I'm feeling inadequate or something. And I say that, and then on Tuesday, when I'm with Mike and we're just hanging out, I'm like buttoned up, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. What's up? How you doing? I'm saying one thing on the pod, and then I'm living a different way. And I used to do that a ton, and because I think it's this always kind of makes me feel like, oh, this is where I put the armor down.
Yeah.
This is my safe space to
you literally watch it happen. I feel throughout the podcast.
Totally, it happens. Yeah,
like when you walk in that door to when we're on the
absolutely
we press record.
You feel it too. It's like a second we sit down, it starts to happen, and then minute 30, it's like we're boohooing and like really getting to the bottom of something.
Yeah,
and feels like therapy. And I was wondering with you, like as you're doing Wholesome Homies in the throw of it, and you're in your first year of doing this thing, have you felt often that like, I think you said before the pod, you felt like an imposter syndrome or something, feeling like you may not be able to, you're not, well, you could speak on it. I don't want to speak for you.
Go for it.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to say like, cause we felt it too. And in the 3-year process of doing this thing, like there's been these ebbs and flows of like, oh, we're thinking more business, then we're thinking more, who are you today, Mike, right now? This is where my focus is. When I'm here, I know I'm doing the right thing, and I'm present. That's what this podcast is about. That's what we promised each other. When I'm not doing that, well, then I'm kind of wasting time. I feel like I'm not here. I'm somewhere else, or I'm holding something in. I don't want to let it go. And it makes me feel like an imposter or a fraud. And I had to get over that through therapy and through going through the uncomfortable shit with Mikey more and being honest with him as a friend and realizing that like I can talk to my deep stuff with Mikey on Thursday instead of just, podcast day. Yeah. So I just was wondering about your thoughts and if you've ever felt that way while you're podcasting or the days you're not.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Like it's funny enough, I have a twin sister and we're extremely close. And she was talking to me a few months ago and kind of like more or less called me on my bullshit and was like, hey, you preach this certain thing, but you're not giving this grace to yourself. You're not giving this whatever it was to yourself. Right. And my friends really get on me sometimes because they say they see a potential in me that I never or I don't even see myself, and I don't really know how to kind of let that go. And it's interesting, like how you said, like, some days like you'll lock it up, and once you get in the studio, like that plate of armor's off. But it's weird because I feel like sometimes, depending on what's happening in our lives, we almost forget that vulnerable self, and we forget how to be really honest with ourselves because through the last few months, like I would say through probably March, April, I was dealing with some stuff at work, dealing with some personal things that I didn't even realize were happening. And I remember I looked at myself one day in the gym. I was just facing in at a machine right in front of the mirror, and I kind of looked at myself and I was like, yo, you're alone. Like, you just have like that. And it was just a thought up here, right? And those thoughts, like, it's a whole interesting thing because like they just come, right? You're not, it's more the ego talking, and it's not actually your true genuine soul. So it's interesting because in that month or two, I couldn't even be honest with myself, and I couldn't even really look at myself and see what was going on. And I feel like it's just a process of like, I've broken it down to just a daily thing. Like even today, had some really not so fun customers at work and had to really bring myself out of a mode of wanting to complain and see all the negative and be like, nah, you know what? Like, things are right here. I'm going to voice what I need and like express how I'm feeling, and then just try and see, like you said, trying to see that light in the room and trying to see the goodness in today. And so it's interesting because on the podcast, I almost get, most of the time I'm able to be very present, and sometimes I'll be, depending on the guest, I'll be worried about how I'm wording things, or like more so just making sure I come off proper, I guess. And then I don't know, yeah, I would say I'm definitely it's definitely more just the content I put out that, or used to, I guess, and will soon. I kind of worry about the perception of it and worry like, hey, does this actually have validity? Does this mean anything? Because in the moment when I'm speaking it, I'm like, oh, this makes a ton of sense and really lands well with my heart. But afterwards, when I'm editing or something, I'm like, do I even put this out? So that's where I'd say the imposter stuff comes from.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
You said before.
So like I said, I come way back around to the question.
I love it. No, I love this. This is how I speak too, man. You said before you have trouble accepting compliments. Why do you think that is?
Trauma. Yeah, I would say definitely like I don't know, grow it up to y'all how much you wanna hear, but
we're here for it, man. What did they say? We're here for it.
As much as you want to give.
Yeah, as much as you're willing to give.
Yeah. Well, so like growing up, always had, like, from the time I could remember, I had a lot of body dysmorphia issues. Really was super hard on myself. And like from like my mom always tells this story, like when I was a year old, the first time I tried to walk, I got up and then fell back down, as every baby does, and I flipped. Like I was so pissed, and like that happened with every single thing I did. Wow. And it was more so from a comparison lens, because I was always I viewed myself as the smaller kid. I viewed myself as the fat kid. And I look back at pictures and I was like, yo, I was thin. Like I was a skinny dude. But the thing I saw in the mirror was this disgusting, like, I remember looking at myself when I was in grade 10 and I was like, you're going to be fat for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And just deal with it. Wow. And it's insane. Like I better not cry on this podcast. It's insane.
We cry all the time.
Kind of like
man. We cry all the time.
Oh, yo, same.
Cries are good, man.
It's interesting how those thoughts come up and like you don't even realize them when you're a kid. You're just like, oh, these are my thoughts. These just exist. And it's not until you go through things like therapy and you go through trauma and you try and like when you're older, you actually learn. I feel terrible because I try and reach out to people, but some people just that's how it is their whole lives, right? They can't really focus and control what's going on in their head. But lot of, I would say those thoughts, like I found out recently, came a ton from my father. Somebody who like, yeah, I mean,
we're gonna get real close. Man, this is crazy.
Yeah, bro. It basically like trying to live up to an unachievable standard. And so that's where all my negative thoughts came from, and the comparison and everything else. And like my twin sister too, like growing up, like she was taller than me. She had abs and like was better could run faster, and I was super into sports and wanted to do like have the ability she had. But over time, like obviously you end up having to look at those issues in one way or another. And I don't know. Was the question imposter syndrome again?
No, it was about why you have trouble accepting compliments.
Oh, compliments. Yeah. So I would say like it came with that, and like tons of negative self-talk through university, and eventually like I lived there for 6 years and had a ton of the people I lifted with like kind of call me on it, because when I was in the bottom of a squat with 500 pounds on my back, I would say, oh, this is an awful rep. And I would just yell that out without even thinking. And it kind of like, it became a very conscious thing the last year and a half of really being conscious of the words I'm saying to myself and the things that people are saying to me. And like when people say compliments, I really try and take them and just say, hey, thank you. Like I'm allowed this praise. I'm allowed to feel good about myself. Definitely still like a big work in progress, but much better than where I was a few years ago.
I definitely can relate to that. Just that feeling of like trying to, like, I just wanted to hear the words like, oh, I'm proud of you or something. You know what I mean?
Facts. Yeah.
And then you don't really get that a bunch, you know? And I think what that did to me was made me be like, oh, you're like, to myself, I'm like, oh, like you're not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. And yeah, man. Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
And you know, I think if it goes unchecked, that's like how you live your life. Yeah. Which is scary. That's a scary place to live. You know, because it's nothing you do is ever enough. Yeah. And you're searching for something that's like, it's too big to attain from one person. It became something that I think, for me, I'll speak personally, like it was born out of chasing love from one person and admiration and acceptance. And since I didn't get that, it became everyone all the time with everything. And if I'm not that, I'm not special. I'm not enough. You know, I used to say, as soon as I met somebody, like, I've talked about this on the pod a lot, but I'd be like, oh, I'm an actor. And But you know, my day job, I wouldn't say this, is like at a cafe or something, or at a gas station or wherever. I paint or whatever. And I said, what? You know, I checked it recently. I'm like, why would I do that? Why would I always do that? Why would I feel the need to start with my identity being an actor? And I was like, oh, because it gave me a leg up in a conversation. It made me seem different. It made me seem, in my head at least, my perception of how it would sound if someone said it to me, wow, that's different. That's interesting. You know, I don't do that. Tell me more. You know, and it made me seem like, I guess, watching myself in a weird way, like, oh, that dude's maybe worth giving 5 minutes to and getting to know and becoming friends with and loving or whatever. And that's me unchecked, you know. I know that's where, and that it doesn't stop there. That's just what my habit became was I was trying to bolster my identity. But now I feel much more confident in saying like, I'm Dave. What do you want to know? I can tell you whatever you want to know. But I am no longer trying to impress you, which is different. It's different for me, And you ever feel that way? Like you feel like, as you're speaking about your trauma and why you are the way you are and why you have trouble taking compliments. I also like when I was, I was doing play, whenever I'd act, people come up to you after show and like, hey man, congrats, you did great, dude. And want to talk to you and all this. And I'd feel the same thing. Like it just bounce off, I couldn't hold it and accept it and let it pass through me and say, thank you so much. I totally receive that. And I appreciate you fully and wholly. And I don't know why, I didn't know why for a long time. And I think, and I'm working through my stuff as well still. But I think it's because I was chasing that one person's love and full appreciation and full attention and never got it the way I wanted it. So I couldn't, it's like I've heard you can't fully love someone if you don't fully love yourself first. If you don't know what that's like, how can you possibly give that out? How can you possibly, if you don't say, dude, you are incredible. What a gift. What a beautiful life you are. Just all of you. You're the body that you inhabit and the skin that covers your bones and the bones that move you from place to place and hold you upright and the organs that pump the blood through you and the heart that keeps you moving and your brain that keeps you thinking and moving and living and thinking all these beautiful thoughts. If you're not like, dude, what a gift I am, not in like it sounds like I'm being insane, I guess, but like not in a real, like I'm trying to be humble about it, but also like fully self-loving. If I can't love myself, I can't hear love from somebody else. I can't give love to somebody else. Like you're going to get this much. You're not going to get all of me and it won't be honest. I don't know why I'm saying this, but like I guess it's part of the journey I'm realizing is I just hated myself too growing up and I didn't realize it. Hated myself.
No, it resonates a ton, and that's it's interesting the you can't love yourself until you can't love somebody until you love somebody else. Part of me disagrees with that, and part of I understand it, but I remember I heard this thing, and it was like it's tough because for the people that really struggle with that, for the people that really struggle to see themselves authentically and for like the soul they are beyond everything else, it's really hard to say that to that person because then they're like, okay, but I've never been able to feel this way about myself. So am I just like destined for being alone? But I think it kind of comes, it kind of pairs together with having another, not even having another, but like collaboration relationships in some way. Like it's okay to be able to, like you guys being in the same room together, Dave, you being able to open up to Mikey and vice versa. And like, you're allowed to have a person there with you to say, hey, no, you are all this stuff. And then that makes you realize and like builds you up. And eventually over time, like it creates a snowball effect. And eventually you're able to get to a kind of a higher level of self-worth and like really realize that in yourself. But,
for sure,
I think I don't know. I don't want to say it's okay to feel that way and to feel like kind of that harshness in yourself, but it's a process of getting out of that and being able to look at it every day and just be like trying to wake yourself up, I guess. Like when I'm here talking with you guys, like I feel completely full. I feel like I could, I want to do the most possible and I want to achieve the most possible. And I feel like my really true self, but depending on the environment you go through or you're in, or depending what comes up in your day or whoever, like sometimes you may not feel that way. And it's just a process. It's just an ebb and flow. And like, sometimes we're not going to like the person we see in the mirror, but I believe truly that it's a lifelong thing. And I know I'm better today than I was a year ago. And I'm able to do so many more things for myself and praise myself so much more than I was able to then. So I think it's like it's a consistent trial of trying to go through that and trying to reiterate that to yourself, like, yo, I actually am this. And I used to want to be the humble guy. And I thought, like, if I said one good thing about myself, I was being a douchebag.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here or not.
Of course,
but,
yeah.
I mean, it's not even, but and so like that, I took that to the extreme and never said a good word about myself. So it's it's just about trying to, at least for me, trying to just continuously be like, hey, you're actually allowed to say these good things about yourself. You're actually allowed to give yourself praise, regardless of who has told you it in the past, because we're all just searching for love. We're searching for connection and to mean something to somebody.
Amen.
Yeah.
And so if we don't get that when we're young, it's so hard to try and get to that place when we're an adult.
Yeah. I wanted to add to that saying, you gotta, love yourself before you love someone else. I almost feel like, because I thought about that. That was kind of the first thing I ever thought of, like when I was younger. Like I heard that and I was like, oh, that sounds like a very like of course, But I feel like within this, and I've been kind of learning how to figure that out throughout this whole life, right? But when that recent, like a couple months ago, like revelation I kind of had, I feel like it's kind of changed to like, you have to like accept yourself, accept who you are, right? With all because you're the only one that knows it all.
Yeah.
And if you can accept everything that you've been through and what you've done, the bad, the good, the wrong, the ways you wrong people, I think that's the step,
Yes.
I feel like there's like everyone has like the stuff that's holding you back, every day. It could be every day, or it comes out in hate to like someone you love or something like that. I feel like once you figure out how to accept yourself, that's when you can really like, I don't know, just live life and whatever, and give love, or I don't know. I think just live truthfully, right? I think that's what we're all trying to get to.
For sure.
I don't want to be a fake. I don't want to be a fraud.
No. You know it when you're walking through life, being a fraud to yourself.
Yeah.
You know the feeling.
Sometimes you trick yourself to be like, oh no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Give you like how many like excuses you give about yourself, in a day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had a thought this morning. I was like, my wife woke me up. She goes, oh, we got to go, my niece's birthday and go to see my in-laws and stuff. And I said, oh, dang, okay. I have my body stuff too. And I'm like, oh, I got to go for a run then, because I'm going in the pool. So I got to be ready. And how crazy is that? I'm still working through my stuff, and I'm way in the early stages of it.
I'm right there.
Yeah.
I think I think that's why we're here too. We're three big boys. All right?
We're three bigger guys, man.
Three big boys.
Here's the thing. Like,
we've lived through it.
But so I'm waking up and I'm having this thought from moment one, and I'm like, I gotta go. I'm in panic mode. I gotta do this, and it'll make me calm and it'll make me sane. And I go out for the run, and as I'm running, I'm like, it was weird. I was like, I went back to the bed, and I was like, the way I spoke to my body was, I gotta lug this thing around now. That was the way I was communicating to my body. Oh, I got to get this thing up and get it moving, so that it's like, it looks like not a piece of shit, but all right, passable. And I'm like, listen to yourself, dude. Like as I'm doing the healthy thing, the uncomfortable thing, my voice is changing. I'm saying, hey, look at though, bro. Like your body's propelling you. It's not something you lug around. Look at how you're moving. It's like you're in a car. You're seeing the town. You can look around and see the sky and the birds and these trees like fully in bloom, and feel the breeze on your skin, and your legs are pumping, and your heart's pumping, and you're moving. And it was funny, like the bed, Dave stationary in one place, is saying one thing about his body, and then his body, as it's working through some hard thing, is saying to Dave, oh, bro, look how beautiful this little relationship we have is. Actually, it's not you lugging me around, it's me propelling you around, dude. Isn't it cool? And when I listened to your pod, I realized that you had spoken about this in some way too. And I was like, this is kind of weird that you're having the same kind of a conversation about doing the uncomfortable thing. For you, doing something physical like running. Like you were a power lifter, and you explained that you had a ton of energy growing up and you didn't know where to put it. And you eventually became a power lifter. which is nuts to me, you know. And then you began running. For me, quarantine, I started boxing, and I was terrified.
Huge. I've seen that. Yeah.
Dude, I was horrified, man. Like wasn't a big contact guy growing up. Played basketball and soccer and stuff, but I was like terrified about boxing. But I wanted to I was so in a place of uncertainty, and my foundation I felt like was pulled out from under me, and I didn't know who I was. I was totally lost, and I had this instinct like, start this, try this, and throw yourself into it fully. And you know, we'll pat ourselves on the back today. We'll be kind to ourselves today. I think I'm a good student, man. I feel like I'm a good student of things. If I try a thing, I'm gonna really want to immerse myself in it. And it's been a year and a half. Mikey just joined. Mikey's in the gym now too. You know, he's boxing as well. But talk about being uncomfortable, man. Like, what is it to you putting yourself in an uncomfortable position? Like, you know, has it become an instinct? Has it become something you just do? I don't want to do the thing. That means I'm going to do it. That's how Matt moves through life now. Is it something you work up to? Is it something that like you feel fear and you're a fear seeker? You know, like a thrill seeker. Like who are you, Matt? Like as connected to the uncomfortable, and why is it important to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because once I started talking about that more, like those last few episodes before I kind of like took my hiatus, it was something that I recognized that I was doing unconsciously my whole life. And it was more so like when I was younger, just like, hey, get out this energy, like just get it. Because I remember being my like grade 4, grade 5 year, I was angry. And I was just an angry kid, and I had no clue why. And I remember for some reason I just turned the switch off and focused more on sports, and was involved in sports my whole life. So I was just used to it. And I try and say like that uncomfortable thing doesn't have to be physical. For me, it lands. For me, the physical thing is what wakes me up, right? And I feel like it can come back to what we were talking about earlier, like being proud of yourself. Like I'm so proud of myself when I finish a long run, or when I, you know, if I make it to the gym, and I need to hold myself accountable. Right. And so a lot of times, more often than not, I don't, but I know, and I started to recognize, maybe in like February-ish, I started to say, okay, like all these fear things around you, all these little things that you're scared of, you make into this large thing. But it really doesn't, it's not nearly as big as what we make it out to seem. And sometimes these things that I've put off for weeks and months, like it becomes this big thing in my head, but sometimes it takes 2 minutes to do. So the fear thing for me is where, like, the thing behind fear is where I'm trying to get to. And so it's like anything I feel that kind of fear trigger turn on, it's like, okay, I need to look at that more. I need to kind of face that more. And in terms of like the uncomfortable, the kind of doing the hard shit every day, like I feel on top of the world when I'm able to do something like that, when I'm able to, you know, do these physical things that I do. And it's not every day, but it's something that makes me feel accomplished, and something that makes me feel like I can say, it's almost like part of me feels like it's almost, I need to do this thing in order to be proud of myself. But then there's another side of it where it's just like, okay, I can just be grateful for the body I have and the output that it's having on whatever activity I'm doing. And so I think it just gives you, I feel like, at least right now, I feel like it just goes back to a sense of like self-worth and pride in yourself, and say like, yeah, I can do this hard thing. And some days it may be physical, and some days it may be like going for a run, or it may be going to the gym or boxing or whatever. And then that can translate some days into like later on, maybe you have to have a really fucking difficult conversation with your boss or with your partner.
Yes.
And that's the hard thing you need to go do. And maybe you lose a loved one, right? Like decades down the road. And that's a hard thing that you have to deal with, but you know, you've done it before. So it's just a process of compounding that. And it's a thing where it's like, okay, I've done this once. I know I can do it again. I have the worth, I have the ability, I'm capable, right? And so like that's kind of where it kind of lies with me.
Got you. Wow. I want to bring it into the uncomfortable, if that's cool. I want to bring you into this uncomfortable, and we're staying wholesome. We're not doing anything crazy here, but the uncomfortable. And I'm being called to ask you this. I don't know why. Is there something, because you're good with the physical uncomfortability, right? Like that's where you lean. That's where you go, and you were just discussing like why and what effect it has on the rest of your life. But like, I'm a big what if guy. Sometimes I like to go there. And I think all of us maybe can think of someone where we have something we want to say that we never got the chance to say. And I was wondering it with you. We don't have to ever, let's keep names, let's keep people's identity out. But if there was something that you wanted to say that you didn't get the chance to say, that you would like to say now to someone, to the one person you never got the chance to say it to, what would that thing be? You don't have to explain why. This is for all of us.
Oh yeah? Oh boy.
Say I'm sorry. I wish I didn't take it for granted. I wish I realized what I had in front of me when it was there. Yeah, it's a tough thing because when you go through shit that really builds, like tears you the fuck down and then builds you up after you, these things come after. And like I love that you asked that because I haven't even like kind of gone to that realm in a long time. Yeah, just a former person that meant a lot to me and showed a lot of opened up a lot of myself that I didn't realize was there. And kind of just like didn't give myself the grace and didn't give myself the validity to just be that person that they saw.
Wow.
And instead just I knew I was a good person in that thing, but I'd be interested to see how like this Matt treated that situation. Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing.
I appreciate you for asking that.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
That's big.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing it. It's tough to what if. It's tough to say, to see where you're at today, to look at the person you were and then say, dang. I mean, it's very brave of you to say what you said. And we feel that. I don't have to ask Mike. I know he's felt that way.
100%.
You're not alone in that, dude. We couldn't be our best selves yet. How could we? We hadn't arrived yet. And life is so much about timing and just chemistry and meeting at the right place at the right time in the right moment. And relationships, all kinds are like symphonies, and like some clash and then some somehow coming from two different orchestras, they match and they make sense and the dance works and you keep moving in the dance until one falls out. Dang, that was powerful, man. Thank you. Thank you for being honest.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking that. Yeah, I don't know. Y'all said you were going to answer this too, so I don't want to talk over.
No, you're good, dude. What about you, Mike?
I have one thing I've been really thinking about for past couple weeks that I feel like I would want to say to everyone that I know is like important, or even just people I know, is I love you way more than I like make it, like what my actions tell, I think. Or I appreciate way more than what I show.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm a lot, like pretty reserved in a lot of the times I do that. Even I feel like to you, maybe, you know, sometimes maybe I don't, you know, show enough. And I want to, you know, but it's maybe hard or uncomfortable for me. But I feel like that's one thing I could definitely, you know, I can attack that comfort if it's really something I want deep down, you know, because it's always like in that moment, I'm like, oh, I want to say something, but then I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's weird. Never mind. You know?
I understand. Thank you. I know you love me.
Yeah.
I know how much you love me. You don't have to. If you want to, I'm arms wide open here for it, and it's never awkward. But like, you know, I also know who you are as a human, and I'm not going nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I understand how deep you love me, and I love you just as deeply. And there's no pressure there. But if you ever want to say something, you know, it's all good and it's not weird. Yeah, you know.
Thank you, man.
We are totally who we are. I accept you for who you are. Don't feel bad about, you know, stepping on impulses if you got them. It's okay. You're working through things, and I know that, and I'm patient in that friendship and relationship. Totally. So no pressure. But I love you too for who you are, and you do a lot for me. And I cried on this podcast how many times talking about what you do for me. You know, so no rush, no pressure. I love you. I know how deeply you love me too.
Thank you, man.
No worries about that.
Yo, can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, bro. It's a weird thing. Like, I feel like a lot of times the things we want to say, like even on like content or anything else, but especially in like our relationships we have with people close to us, we almost worry how we come across.
Yes.
Because we never want to say the wrong thing. We never, especially if it's somebody we care about, we hold them to a much higher standard. So we want to meet them there. So we're very careful and like thought out sometimes. But at the end of the day, like I continue to tell myself this to convince myself, but like people call it cringe and people say, oh, it's awkward, it's weird. It's like, you're saying it from your soul.
Yeah.
And you're saying like those impulses, those things you want to say, you're allowed to say that. And that's allowed to be voiced. And if that doesn't land with somebody, cool. And if they call you cringe, there's no like negative effect there because that's their perception of it. But you're saying what's from the heart, and you're really expressing the love you have inside you. And it's not wrong to say those things. You're completely allowed to tell somebody you love them, to tell somebody you appreciate them. And like, I've tried to do this thing where I did it with my former partner for a long time, but like I used to just, if we were driving, I'd just look over and be like, I love you so much. Like, you mean the world to me, and spout off and whatever. And so like, I try and like text people now or call people like when I start feeling that way, because it's like the more you try and grease that groove and get used to saying that, the easier it's going to come. But at the end of the day, I would just say like, and I'm not trying to like tell you what to do or anything. But like, you're just speaking from the heart, and you're allowed to say that, because what goes unsaid, who knows, maybe that person really needed to hear it that day. And regardless, like, I used to think it was selfish to make people feel good, because I love complimenting people. I love hyping people up. And I used to think it was weird. Like, I would just say to people on the street, yo, I love your tracksuit. Like, that's dope as shit. And you see the smile light up in their face, and they're like, holy shit, thank you so much. Like, you're allowed to give people praise, and you're allowed to make other people happy, and that's allowed to make you happy back, because you're enriching their life. So I would just say that, and like, allow what's in there to be said, regardless of how it feels, because sometimes it can be difficult, but like, you have the ability, and whatever you're feeling, that's completely valid, and that should be said.
Yeah, you're right, man.
Agreed.
Definitely. And it's almost like me thinking that's, weird or awkward. If they are like, oh, that's cringe, then they're literally feeling the exact same thing that I felt, but I decided to like overcome it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like you almost like after you're done, you understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
You're simply going to a place that's more honest,
Yeah.
and you're bringing it into the world instead of swallowing it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's only a positive for you.
Yeah.
So you got to live 5 seconds in a clearer, more honest way while you're living than another person who may have swallowed the impulse.
Yeah. I think that's a problem I've had a long time, because Mikey's the king of bottling it up.
Yeah, Mikey's the king.
So I think that's where it comes from.
Davey's a close second.
Yeah.
But Davey's trying to be good with it too.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel you, man. We talk in the third person on the Your Ear Pocket. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
Dude, same.
No, but I love this. I love being in this vein with you guys, because these are the conversations I like and thrive off of. When
Me too.
it's a couple of guys, we are men, and I don't know. I grew up in a place where I was screamed at to stop crying, and it became the thing I programmed myself to do, was bottle it, hold it in, fight this who you are, fight against it. And it took and is taking a lot to bring the walls down. And with that comes a lot of pain and trauma. So it's so cool, to hear you even say that, that you want to express, and just the fact that you expressed it, you put yourself in a scary situation, right? Because this is a podcast, so people might say, "Oh, Mike's cringy for that. That's a cringy thing to say." And if they do, I hope someone says that it's cringy, so
Yeah.
How does that affect you at all?
Yep.
I mean, it means nothing. It means nothing. I'm not thinking that.
Yeah.
Matt's not thinking that, and you just overcame a scary thing. By getting it off your chest and telling me how you feel, and everyone else.
Yeah, it feels good.
And
sorry, I'll just say one thing. Like that's the important thing. I feel like I've started to view things in a lens of like, how would I feel if I was in somebody else's shoes looking at me?
Yeah.
And it's like Dave, if you're going to the pool and you feel like you need to go for a run before you can take your shirt off, like I've been there, and it sucks, and it's almost like you have to validate, like being able to show your meat suit.
Yeah.
And like I think about it now, like I hated like going to the beach, just being like, oh man, my guts out, like like I'm not shredded like some of these other fellas, but if you think about it, if you walk around a beach and you see somebody like maybe you view as unfit, or you view as not in shape, or like not your ideal physique, it's like maybe you might have that view of somebody. I'm sure like, we all have these ego judgments in our mind, but sometimes you may think about that for 2 seconds and then move on. Sometimes you may not even notice it.
I don't even notice it. I would be like, someone else is here on the beach with me. Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean. It's just another human, right? There are like definitely those people in the world that do throw those judgments out there, and maybe they linger on it longer. But regardless, it's like, if I'm telling somebody to go to the gym, I'm like, regardless of what the hell you're doing or what you're wearing, maybe there's one person that says, oh, that exercise is weird, or they look funny, and then they move on with their day. And so like if you're expressing how you feel about somebody else, like you're just think about how you would feel if somebody said that to you, right? And like that's how I think about it. And like I view people as mirrors, and like there's a whole like theory behind it. But regardless, it's like you're just saying that to another version of you. And if somebody's not willing to accept something that's positive or kind or just from the heart, like they're dealing with something a lot deeper, and that thing's probably going to stick with them, that compliment. But regardless, that's not on you.
Yeah.
You can only control how you feel.
Right. I like that.
And I almost think like, because I was there too, it's like, I'm like, oh, like, I'm like this, I'm freaking fat. And I'm like, but then I'm like, what if if I'm on the other side and I'm ripped, but I'm in that mindset?
You still won't be. It won't be enough.
Yeah, and like I do the work and I get in it. I'm not gonna like look back and be like, look at everyone that's fat and be like, like what now, dude? Now I'm the ripped one.
Now,
you know, it's like you're in the it's the wrong mindset. Because like even to like get fit, it's the wrong like motivation to get fit.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, if it's not for the right reasons, if it's a comparison game, and you're just like, well, my meat suit isn't as toned as that meat suit. It's
almost like there's more important things to work on than your meat suit.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're thinking like that.
I think your intention is huge. Like in anything you do, if your intention is, I want it. Like I was talking about, I talked about this before, but like with, I was always searching for something to be good at because I wanted to be loved and accepted and like fully cared for, like many of us. And I say it like nothing now, but I would never say this 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But when I found acting, I said, oh wow, that's something where someone told me very early on, like, hey man, you're not so bad at this thing. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I didn't get that in sports. I didn't get that in relationships. I didn't get that in schoolwork, anything. And then I found this thing and I got a kudos, and that felt real nice. So I stuck with it. And then for 10 years, 11 years now, that's the thing I've been doing. But around 2 years ago, when I had to take a long, hard look in the mirror because of quarantine, and I dealt with depression during that and had to go to therapy and all this stuff. I realized with the trauma in my life and the chase, I was always after love and affection and attention because I wanted to be seen as special, seen as something unique, as something valuable. My life is worth it because other people love me, because I do a thing. And like I'll dance for you, and then I'll get a wow, and then big hug and kiss, and then but that feeling, that's fleeting. That doesn't for me, it doesn't exist for long. There was something that was always I was chasing that would dissipate, and then I'd have to look for it in other people and more friends and more communities and more things that I can do that are special and whatever. And I think I'm arriving at a place of like, I feel special enough now. I have, and I became very spiritual. I know you're into spirituality. I know Wholesome Homies, it's part of the conversation. I used to be afraid to say recently that I'm a Christian. And for the past couple of years, my belief system was kind of up in the air. And for me, God has become the thing that fills the hole. The thing that stops me from thinking I'm not special, and instead says, no, I put you here. You're beautiful, and I love you, and you have a purpose. And people that are gonna love you are gonna come and go, but I will always love you. And that's finally, I guess, quenched my never-ending pursuit. I feel like it's. I have to work on it all the time. I have to open the door and be present with them. For me, my spirituality is something that was totally lacking, and now it's a part of my wellness, and I'm grateful for it. How about you, Matt? What's spirituality mean to you, dude? Like, you talk about energy a lot. I was actually really interested in this, man. Like the vibrations and the buzzing and energy, I know we share energy. I know that's like a scientific fact, right? Like energy is never created nor destroyed. So like, what does that mean to you, bro?
Oh man, there's so much going on in my head.
Sorry, bro. I'm coming at you with a lot, man.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. I say the same. Like, I'm on the same wave. Don't you worry. One thing I was gonna kind of respond to what you said first. Kind of about like trying to find the thing that you get praise from. And I feel like we always try and it definitely goes back to like some time where we probably don't remember somebody saying like we're not good at this thing or like demeaning us, and always trying to like level up, or like we talked about in the beginning, like not being told somebody's proud of you, right? Because you just want love, you just want to belong, you just want to feel like you're special to someone.
Yeah.
And so like if a partner comes along that like gives you love, you're just like, okay, only this one person can love me now. Like that's it. Like they gave me that and that's it. And trying to find other things to show your worth. I feel like you said, it's a fleeting thing, but I think it's hard to get there. Like I'm nowhere near it, but it's hard to get to a place, but I believe it's attainable to just say, yo, I just am. And like, this is enough. And I am valuable enough. Bang. I'm able to have that worth regardless. And it's like, yo, you can say it. And eventually, like, you know, I do believe it to some degree now, thankfully. Still ways to go, but regardless, like I said, it's a lifelong journey thing. So, yeah, I feel like it kind of like this kind of ties into what we were saying before about just expressing what's in your soul, because with spirituality and like you're kind of like more so looking at your question. Have you guys heard the story of the egg?
No.
It's just called The Egg. I can send you the video after and it'll probably explain it better, but regardless, basically, there's this guy just walking through the city, minding his own business. He's got kids, family, a dog at home, falls through a manhole, and then just wakes up in this darker space and a little like lights just shining on him. And there's this large figure that looks over him. And he's like, hey, so-and-so, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. And like, he kind of like introduces him to where he's at. And the guy's like, am I dead? And he's like, well, if you perceive it that way, sure. Let's say that. And he says, oh, are you God? And he's like, well, if you decide that, then sure. And so he kind of like goes on and explains what happened to him and like how he died and everything else, and make sure like he basically says like, hey, your family's fine. Like they know what happened. They're okay. They kind of grieved and they were good. And then eventually he says, okay, you're going back now. And he says, okay, like wait, like where in the future? He's like, oh no, you're actually going to like 800 BC and you're going to be a small, like small girl who's like impoverished basically. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, don't we go forward? And he's like, no, like the point of getting to where this bigger being who's like guiding him, how to get to that point is to live life from every single vantage point, every single point of view, because each life has a specific lesson to learn to be able to encompass that larger being.
Whoa.
And so it's up to you how you perceive that, whether that's God, whether that's Buddha, whether that's like I just call it source. I just say like I connect more with the earth, and I kind of connect more with Mother Nature on that realm. But regardless, like whatever it means to you, that's valuable and that's important. And if that is what brings you that same feeling, wonderful, right? But when I mentioned like kind of that talking to people as mirrors kind of thing, that's how I view it. Because if I'm this soul living this life, you guys are we're all part of the same souls, but we're put in different places on earth. And like, sometimes, you know, we find each other like you guys did. And, we're able to learn these different lessons, even if we're in the same realm, because we have very specific things that we have to figure out through this life. And then, hey, maybe if we don't figure out, it's not a failure. It's just like, okay, let's move on and let's see if we can learn that somewhere else. And so when I'm talking to you guys, I can try and think, I'm talking to my same soul in a different body.
Bang.
Right. And I'm
empathy.
able to,
oh my goodness, talk about empathy, dude.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. It's like, if somebody comes to me, like I work at Lululemon, and so I'm in retail. And so like, if I have somebody that comes to me and like yells at me for God knows what, I know they're not talking to me that way. They're talking to themselves that way, because they've been dealing with some other stuff beyond that, and they're looking for the next person to let that out. And so they're, in a way, what they're saying to me, they're telling to themselves. So it's like, if I get upset with somebody, it's like, if I get upset with somebody on the road, I'm just upset with myself because certain maybe insecurities I'm feeling, or things that happened earlier that day, or maybe I wish I was a nicer person and didn't get upset, or whatever it is. But those things that you're telling other people, other souls, that's actually you, but it's just like reflecting back on you. And it's like, okay, maybe if I say this thing that I really didn't enjoy saying to that person, that's actually something I got to look at.
Yeah.
I don't know if that necessarily answers the spirituality question, but that's more so like a view of seeing people.
I love that, dude. That's very empathetic way to walk through life, and it resonates, man. I think it's spot on. With we are much more alike than we are different, and I am much more you than I think I am sometimes. Like at my worst, I'm like, nah, I'm in my own zone. I got into a scrap with one of my neighbors, and I hate getting into problems with anyone. I love people, man. I really do. I love life and I love people. And I had this thing happening where this guy that I lived next to, he accused me of something, and he pulled up on me at like midnight, and I was walking my dog, and he like almost hopped the curb with his car, his little silly car. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, this guy's getting out of his car at midnight. I'm like, oh, he's going to fight. He wants to physically attack me for something he's accusing me of, which I didn't do. And he got out of the car, and it was this awkward altercation where like he was somewhat just accusing, but also kindly communicating. And I was like, which one is it? I couldn't catch up. We were not on the same vibe. And when he left, I said, did I handle that wrong? Am I crazy? Like, should I have hit him? Like, what did I do? What didn't I do? And I was beating myself up for like a week because I'm like, I should have. I've been a year and a half in boxing. I didn't throw 1 point. Like all these thoughts were rushing through my head, and I realized like as the weeks went on and I prayed more about it and I spoke about it, I was upset with myself because I was feeling that way about myself. I was beating myself up about a situation I had no control over and I didn't see the shoes he was walking in, totally threw that away. And that's why I couldn't get over it for a long time. But then I finally started to see, I don't know what he goes through. I'm sure he's got his own issues, and that's why was he coming home at midnight, swerving around a corner, blasting music and screaming at someone on the phone and jumping out of the car and me like there's stuff going on in his life, and I could totally relate. I've been in places like that before, and I'm not perfect either. So I relate to what you're saying. I got another weird question, and this is off of what you said. So I'm not just going in a weird place for no reason.
Oh, I'm
Matt, you took it here, dude. I'm not. This isn't. We're friends. What if? And I agree. If we're meant to go back and we're put in each other's shoes, right, to experience something about a life and get its point of view and figure out the reason why we were supposed to live that life and like get the lesson. You said lessons. What lesson is Matt's life? What if you were to say one now? If you could boil it down, what do you think the lesson is for living this life right now? What do you think at 25? And we're gonna God willing, like figure it out. But I wonder at this age, on this day, what's the lesson for your life?
Right now, I would say understand how love can impact yourself and people around you. Because like I kind of learned sometime last summer, last fall, like love is my superpower, and I've diminished that for so long. And it's like some days it comes out more than others, and some days I have a ton for myself, and some days I have very little for myself. But it's more so, yes, like this is something that can bring people together. This is something that can impact people, but more so, it's something that really has to, like, I get it theoretically, but it's not fully there yet.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to love myself and just appreciate the person I am, because I've torn myself down. I realized that at 24, I had this big note in like this big thing in my notes on my phone, more so saying, hey, don't forget this, like, don't forget your worth. And I wrote out this big thing, and I was like crying writing it, because I realized like I haven't given myself 1 inch from the time I was born to just breathe and just be and see what I'm actually capable of. So it's just like I've achieved a ton when I really look at it, and if I give myself actual credit for it, while having that that terrible voice, that terrible barrier saying like, no, you're not worth any of this. But then I thought, what if I take that barrier away, then look at what I could achieve, then look at how I would feel about myself, and like not so much achieving things externally, that's wonderful, but more so just being able to wake up every day and be like, I'm full. Like I'm there, and I can look at myself and I can be grateful for myself, and I can say, I love you. And we're on that journey. And I would say right now, that's probably at least encompasses something within that lesson.
Yeah. I love that. That's a pretty good lesson to figure out that lesson with your life. That's a beautiful one. Yeah.
What about y'all?
What's your lesson, Mikey? What is the thing you think you were put here to learn before your time's up? As Mike Nowicki.
That's hard, man. I want to say it has probably to do with empathy.
Okay.
You know? I think that whatever the quote you said I really like is what is it? We're not all the same, or we are more the same than...
Yeah. We're much more alike than we are different.
Yes. I feel like that's like the lesson.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what you need to learn with your time here.
Yeah. Because at youth, I always felt like I was like, oh man, like I'm so unique. Like everything I do is like, it's like you are one of one, but
definitely.
What we feel like separates each other, in a bad way, I feel like, isn't really the unique thing about us. I think the unique stuff about us is like the cool stuff, you know, like things that are interesting. But you know, the pain and stuff, that's very, you know, a lot of people feel that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what everyone's trying to fight towards, and it's the reason why people do good things and do bad things.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's my answer.
Yeah. I love that, dude. And I think you're on the path. You know, I see it. You're buying into a life of definitely that is, when you boil it down, I think you're starting to see, I don't mean to speak for you, but me watching you, I think you're starting to see that, like, the masks we wear and the clothes we buy and the jobs we get and the posts we post and all this stuff is just, when you take it all away, you know, we feel very similar things and think very similar thoughts, I think, than we like to share. And some of us get to a place where we feel brave enough and we don't really, we lose the fear of being like laughed at or cringed or whatever the term is. And well, the more you do it, the more you realize like we're more alike.
Yeah.
Whatever we look like, whatever gender, color, whatever. When at the end of the day, like, call me what you want. TikTok, call me what you want, dude. I don't care, man. I really don't. I don't. I'd rather be honest, because I know that somebody is gonna say, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, Mike. Yeah, I feel that too. Glad you said it. Glad you spoke up, man. Yeah. I can't yet, but I'm glad I heard it from someone, and I'm closer to it now, being my own self. So, yeah, I think that you're on that path, dude, for sure. Straight up.
And I'll just let me just throw something out there super quick. Sorry, Mikey. I keep coming back to what you mentioned earlier about like not wanting to, or not feeling like you want to express that, and like that's constantly been circling my head. I feel like those things come from like somebody that told us that ways ago. Like you probably spoke up in class or like to a parent or something, and they were like, "That's not valid.
Yep,
that doesn't mean anything. Like that's stupid."
Yeah.
But those are those people that create these thoughts in our own minds. It's not actually like you thinking that. It's that other person, that other scenario that happened, whether you can remember it or not. But I definitely believe like that's a thing. And so there's always somebody told us a little while ago, there's always somebody who wants what you have. And so the things you guys are saying on this podcast, there's probably somebody listening to this, kind of like similar, Dave, to what you said. Like there's probably somebody listening to this being like, I wish I could say what Mike was saying. I wish I could say what Dave was saying. And they feel like there's even more of a barrier there. There's more of a kind of a will to push that down. And so you're setting an example for those people to be like, no, this is okay. And you're completely full and completely incredible as the human you are. And you're allowed to say what you want to say, because that's going to speak to somebody. And like Dave kind of mentioned this, I'm more or less reiterating now, but like, you're impacting so many more people than you believe. So everything in that heart, like, you're allowed to let out, because that's going to land with somebody. And regardless, you're going to feel better for allowing that to be let out.
Amen.
And who knows, you may discover different things inside of you when the easier that comes and the more often you face that difficult thing.
Wow. Thank you, man. I mean,
yeah,
It's true.
I love that.
It's
Yeah,
true.
it's very true.
And you know what's crazy too, Matt? You don't know how many people you'll ever, you know how many people you've impacted.
Yeah.
You know, you too, by just speaking your mind and being honest and vulnerable. You won't know how many people you've impacted. Some people will never speak up. Some people will hear this and they won't wake up tomorrow. Like that's life. It's true.
Yeah.
And you might have made them more hopeful and more just feel more hope about life for the 20 seconds they listen, let's say, or the full hour or whatever. You don't know how many people you impact, so why not?
Yes.
Why not share?
I think also I want to try to, like you said, it could be a certain person or like something that said that. I want to like search into that.
I totally agree, man.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
It's huge.
So it's a huge note.
What about you?
Oh man, the lesson at this age, dude. It feels like it's turning into something to do with overcoming generational pain. I think this life I'm living has to do with gratitude for what I do have versus what I don't. And but in a very, very specific way with generational pain. I can see now what I've been through, who I was before, you know, the bad shit I did, the bad habits I have all come from somewhere, like you're saying. And now I can say, like I used to be, and sometimes I fall into a very angry place. Very, very angry. Very much like, why me? Why this? Why can't it be different? And the hardest obstacle I think I need to overcome is that generational wound that was passed down, that wasn't meant to be, that comes from really dark places. I think I'm starting to have empathy there, finally, seeing that people are humans, and even the people that bring us into the world are humans, and the people that brought them into the world are humans. And I have flaws. I sin. I make mistakes. I hurt myself. I hurt others. And I don't want to do that anymore. And so I try to be conscious of it now. I put myself in uncomfortable positions to better myself. I go to therapy. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm trying to be grandiose in what I'm saying. I'm just saying I had to do these things because I think that has something to do with this life I'm living. I think that's what was intended of me to find and get to the end of, maybe not passing that along. Trying to put a stop to it before I do it to a thing I make. Maybe. You know, because then if I have that little ripple in my path, in what comes after me, then what's left here is maybe just a touch brighter. And then that's all I can really do. You know? And how I move through life with you and with Mike and with friends and people I know, you know, I can really damage a thing, or I can just drop, maybe just, if I'm quiet, if I have nothing nice to say, if I'm feeling like crap, you know, if I'm hurting, I'm not trying to bring darkness into a place. I'm just trying to bring a touch of light into a dark place, you know? But specifically, I think the generational stuff has something to do with why I'm here. It's in my work. I think it's in my purpose, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
Everything you've been through has prepared you for where you are now.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing to take on. That's a big task.
Yeah.
But when you're speaking to the person that was in your place X amount of years ago, you can then have that juxtaposition of saying, this is what I was told, and this is actually what I need to hear, and now I can pass that on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like regardless, like I always put so much pressure because I know I'm going to be a good dad. I know I'm going to be a good person to my future family, and that's what I'm pumped about. And I don't want to rush that because I want to enjoy where I am now. But we can't put so much pressure on ourselves for being like, hey, we're going to end this. We're going to have complete sunshine and rainbows and everything else, because people need to go through hard things. But you're able to go through those hard things together with that person rather than giving them that hard thing. And sometimes like you may have really good intentions and all love behind what you're saying, and sometimes it just doesn't come across the right way, and sometimes that may stay with that person for a certain amount of time. But regardless, you can only put the best foot forward in the time you are now, and then eventually, you know, the heart's going to come through, the good intentions are going to come through, and the love is going to impact that person.
Yeah, for sure. Well said, dude. Well said. Yeah, it's a lot to chew on, but yes, totally agree. I think, you know, you got to go through, there's a reason you go through the tough things, and we may not know why now, but I think eventually they show up, the why, and it makes it pulls something out of you, you know, pull something out of you that you didn't know you were. And yeah, I'm very grateful for the tough stuff. After the pain, looking back, very grateful. You know, I wouldn't have met you, I think, if I hadn't. So
likewise, brother. Likewise.
Yeah. So, dang, dude, thank you for doing this with us, man. I want to get, before we wrap this up, man, I want to get, what's a piece of advice that was given to you, man, that has just made you a better person? And it could have been from a grade school student, a brief passing thing that maybe you didn't think about twice, and now you recollect and you're like, wow, that is a beautiful piece of advice. Something you wish like someone told you maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago. You know, what's something you'd like to, or something you'd like to tell us, a piece of advice? A saying, a quote, anything.
It's been circling around in my head when you guys mentioned certain things, but I was told this by my wonderful friend Marley. She's a yogi in town here, and
shout out
she
Marley.
told me one time when I was
shout out.
Sorry,
we do shout out to her. Sorry,
yes,
shout out Marley.
Yes, sir. She told me one time when I was struggling. She said, "What's meant for you will never pass you."
Oh.
And regardless of the pain you feel like you put onto each other, regardless of the pain you felt, regardless of the things you wish you could have done, you do those things for a reason. And if that person was meant to leave, if that thing was meant to leave, or environment, whatever, that was meant to happen, regardless of how you feel at the moment, because it's eventually going to come around again. And it's going to come around bigger and brighter, and that's going to be the thing that is meant for you. Dang. So regardless of the hurt and the pain, trust in yourself that the universe is going to bring you to the place where you're meant to be.
Oh, baby.
That's what I'd say.
I love that.
Fire. Yo, Matt's in the building,
That
man.
was sick.
Come on. Hey, clip that. Wow. Dude, thank you so much for doing this, bro. Matt. Thank you so much.
Yo, likewise, brothers.
We're totally honored to have you. You're a wholesome homie. You did not fall short of that. We hope to be wholesome homies with you
I love that name too.
in this journey. I mean, dude, awesome.
Oh, I
Awesome.
appreciate that.
We're excited for the new episodes that are going to come whenever they do.
Yep.
We will be tuned in.
Yes, sir.
We'll have links.
We're going to plug the links below. Jeez, man. Dude, speaking of shout outs, anyone you want to shout out before we get out of here and end this show, unfortunately?
Yo, shout out to y'all, man. Like I just want to say, like, Mikey, I appreciate you and I'm so happy you're here. Dave, I appreciate you and I'm so happy you're here.
Dude, you too,
and
man.
here now, because like I saw you guys mentioned like the fragility of life, and like I saw a football player pass away right before we started this.
Wow.
And he had the same birth year as me. Wow. And so that sits heavy. And so I just want to be grateful for this moment. And I think that this is something that we always tell ourselves, like, oh, we can't be too corny, we can't be too cringe, we can't be too nice. But it's good to have this thing. You're allowed to be kind to yourself. You're allowed to be kind to others. And I just want to thank you guys, man, because you guys put out something that is so valuable and something I go back to on a daily basis. And what y'all are doing is so difficult for other people to do, but you are impacting so many souls. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys being here.
Bro, you're the greatest, man. Dude, thank you. I received that fully, man. That means a lot, dude. That means a lot. You are here, podcast. You came to the table in this moment, man.
Yeah.
And in this moment, I'm grateful for you as well, my brother. And that the fact that we got to share our lives together, be honest with each other in this moment, and get to know each other. You know, who knows what's next, but I'm psyched, dude. I'm a better person leaving this thing than I was entering it. And you're a good soul, man. Thank you for joining us. You know, it's just so cool that this happened. Thank you for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
May I just say too, like, this is the first time we've had a conversation.
First time.
Like we've never chatted before.
No.
Really?
Other than me messaging a few times.
No, a few couple, you know.
But
Man,
yeah.
if that's not like proof, and I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird. I feel like normally I could like feel some nerves, but I feel like nothing.
Yeah.
This whole time.
It felt, totally.
Yeah. Leading up to this. It just felt so natural, man.
There's a common a thread in lives, and like when I talk about this thing, I'm not gonna go on a tangent, but like there's this theory, and I forget what it's called, but it has to do with, we all come from stardust, right? We're all built from this we were all created in this little tiny freaking
atoms.
A bunch of atoms climbed together, and then they exploded and they created the universe. And then all those things that used to be so finely connected and next to each other and, huddled up together went all over the place. And maybe there's a piece of like my atom that was leaning on your atom before the thing happened, before we were spread across the universe. And that's why I relate. That's why I feel somewhat similar. Who knows? But I just think that's so cool. It's a cool little visual. But dude, you're totally welcome back anytime to the Your Hair Podcast. Bro. The door is open. You are a member fully and forever. Yep. Come back whenever you like. We'll be sharing your stuff and posting your stuff.
Check out Wholesome Homies.
Wholesome Homies Podcast
on the audio platforms, right? Spotify, Apple.
Yes.
All that.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah. Maybe one day, if you guys will allow me, I'll hang out with y'all in person one day, and we'll do
this. Please, man, take a trip.
Yeah, if you're ever down here, always.
That'd be incredible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you guys for this space again, though. I can't say enough. You guys brought a lot of light to me today, so thank you.
That's beautiful.
Likewise, man.
Gosh. All right, get us on the outro, bro. We're out of here.
Episode 175, You Are Here Podcast. We love you. Another week, man.
Another week, Mike.
It feels good. Every week, man.
I got to stand for this outro. It's
on a Monday, man. On a Monday.
Yeah, I'm feeling
on
good.
A Monday.
We did it again. We made a friend. Shout out to the patrons.
Shout out to the patrons. Patreon.com/You Are Here Podcast.
Yep.
The website's live, yourpodcast.net.
Yep.
It looks sick.
Wholesome Homies is a podcast too. Check that out.
You have to check it out.
It's on the Instagram bio.
I'm just feeling grateful. I feel great, man. Thank you for all the kind words, Matt. And I love you guys.
Love you too, man.
So likewise. Love you, folks.
My name is Mike. I'm signing out.
My name's Dave. I love y'all. Please be kind to one another. Matt.
Oh, me? Oh, fuck. My name is Matt. Yo, love y'all. Tell somebody you love them, kiss them on the mouth. Peace.
Yes, dude. Yes.